Chase, good to see you, man. And we titled this, Should the Niners Draft a Quarterback? The Brock Purdy thing, it's like we don't know when the deal's going to get done, if it's going to get done. The Niners do have Mac Jones. The Niners do have Tanner Mordecai. And yet some people are suggesting that because they're in the midst of a rebuild and they may not be in the Super Bowl hunt, that they ought to lean into it and maybe trade Purdy for a pick and go with Shedeur Sanders at 11 if he's there, and kind of reset their entire deal instead of paying Purdy big money, spread that money around the roster and continue to go with a quarterback on a rookie deal. What do you think, Chase? Are you an advocate for, if Shedeur is there at 11, should the Niners pull the trigger on a quarterback in the first round?
It's a really interesting conversation to have, and it's one that I've noticed a lot of fans have brought up on the 49ers Report when I've been live or when I put up regular videos. And I think the thought process here that comes to mind for me and why fans have brought it to the forefront of the conversation going into the NFL draft at the end of April, you think about everything that the Niners have done this offseason, right? They've let a lot of former starters walk. They've freed up a lot of money. They're eating more than $80 million in dead cap this year instead of spreading it out over the next couple of years. And they really want to build through the draft. They have 11 picks coming up. Then they're loaded with draft capital in the 2026 draft as well, including a bevy of picks in the first 4 rounds. And clearly the Niners aren't quite rebuilding, I would say. I think it's more of an organizational reset. And after the year when they went 6-11, I hinted that something like this could be coming, where when you have a lot of players on the roster like the Niners have, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Deommodore Lenoir, Malik Mustafa, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. You don't quite have to rebuild your organization. And I think last year, the ugly nature of the 2024 season made it feel like the Niners were really far off. I don't think they're that far off, but clearly they're resetting the organization a little bit. And so I think the thought process from a lot of fans, and the one, again, that comes to my mind is, if you're going to reset and you're bordering on this rebuild, and you haven't gotten a contract extension done with Brock Purdy yet you've cleared up a lot of money to pay him, does it just make sense, if you're not in love with Purdy, to trade him away or have him play out the final year of his contract, and then you draft a quarterback at number 11? A quarterback who could be available at number 11 is Shedeur Sanders. He could go to the Browns at number 2. He could go to the Giants at number 3. After that, I don't see a team that's going to take Shedeur. And in a light quarterback class, I think in previous years, he might be a second-round pick. But he might fall to San Francisco at number 11 because it is a thin quarterback class. And so what would happen there is, if you trade away Purdy, you don't have to pay him that contract extension between $50 and $60 million. You reset your organization to a degree where you now have a lot of cap space for the foreseeable future because you're not paying a quarterback. And then you reset that quarterback window with a young quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, who I think Kyle Shanahan would really like. He led college football in completion percentage last year at 72.5%. He processes very well when other teams try to blitz him. He's able to make really quick decisions. I think he throws with really good timing, touch, and accuracy. He's not a great athlete as far as making plays with his legs, and he doesn't have a cannon for an arm. And I think Cam Ward is a lot better than him. He's QB1 on my board. But Shedeur Sanders is that type of cerebral, high football IQ, get the ball out on time, in rhythm, accurately to your playmaker so that they can pick up yards after the catch, that Kyle Shanahan would like. Now, ultimately, I don't think the Niners are going to do that. Their posturing and everything that they've said is that they're going to get a deal done with Brock Purdy, but it has to really be a conversation, I believe, that the Niners are having. Look, if we want to rebuild, don't pay a quarterback $50 to $60 million. If you want to fully rebuild, clearly Jed York is all in on Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Do you reset that quarterback room financially, build out the rest of your roster, and try to take advantage of that quarterback being on that rookie deal? Look at what the Texans are doing with C.J. Stroud. Look at what the Commanders are doing with Jaden Daniels. Look at what the Patriots are doing with Drake May. And this has really served as a way to build a Super Bowl team. Take advantage of that quarterback being on that rookie contract. The Eagles did it with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. The Chiefs did it early with Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals did it with Joe Burrow. And now you see these teams trying to maximize that rookie quarterback contract window. So again, I don't think the Niners go that route. I do think it's a very interesting conversation to have, because even though I think Shedeur is more of a second round guy, he clearly has more overall talent than a player like Brock Purdy.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I'm not a Shedeur guy at all. I saw him in the bowl game against BYU. I didn't think he looked good at all. Now, he does complete a high percentage, but it's a lot of times because he's throwing the ball short. But yeah, if you look at some of the games, 69%, 82%, 79, 73, 69, 83, 69, 85, 80, 61, 73. I mean, 76. He completed 74% for the year. That's a high completion percentage.
Yep. With bad offensive line play too.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is this guy doesn't process. I mean, when you say he processes well, he held the ball a ton this year. I mean, the guy had he was sacked 42 times on the year. He had 5 or 6 games where he was sacked over 5 times. That's a lot. He was sacked 8 times in the Baylor game. He was sacked 10 times in the final 2 games of the season against Oak State, and then the Alamo Bowl against BYU. 6 against Oak State, 4 against BYU. So to me, and then mobility wise, he's not fast.
No.
He had negative 50 yards rushing for the season on 100 carries. So he's not a runner. He's not a runner. He's not a runner, and he holds the ball really a long time. So I don't know. I mean, I know he had a high completion percentage, but I thought he looked really bad in the bowl game. I thought he was all over the place. He was just all over the place. I mean, high, low, didn't look like he knew what he wanted to do. Sometimes he bailed from the pocket soon. I hear you about the concept of resetting the quarterback market. And getting a quarterback on a rookie deal is very attractive. But it's also, you have to have a quarterback. Most rookie quarterbacks can't play. Yeah. So if you pick a quarterback that can't play, you're cooked. So the key is to find a rookie quarterback that can play and that you can win with. So is there a quarterback in this draft that fits that description? I love Cam Ward, but he's reckless as hell with the football. I mean, he holds it like a loaf of bread when he runs. He takes all kinds of chances. He holds the ball around his waist a lot of times when it should be up around his ear. He's really reckless, but he's an alpha. He's a leader. He's tough. He's smart. I think he's aggressive. There's a lot to like about Cam, but I don't like Shedeur, and I'm not a big Jackson Dart guy. Don't like Jalen Milroe. Don't like college quarterbacks that spend 7 years in college. Sorry, Tyler Shugg. Sorry, Dalen Gabriel. If you play 7 years in college, you can't play in the pros. I would say more times than not. So I'm not a Will Howard guy. Liked him a little bit at K-State. Didn't like him as much at Ohio State. I thought Ewers looked bad at the combine. I mean, I know he looked way better at the pro day, but he looked bad in Mobile, in Indy. I didn't think he looked good at all. Throwing against air, you're supposed to look great. He didn't look great. So I guess I'm a little down on trying to find a quarterback in this draft. The quarterbacks that I like in this draft that I believe in would be Kyle McCord from Syracuse. I really like McCord, and I like what I saw this year from him, especially going to Gadsden. I really liked Riley Leonard. I thought Riley Leonard, I was convinced that people were telling me he didn't have enough arm, and then he went to Mobile. He threw the ball great. He looked great. There's something about Riley Leonard that's magical. I love the athleticism of Brady Cook. I love the talent, arm-throwing talent of Taylor Elgersma. And I kind of like the Memphis kid a little bit, Seth Hennigan. But I kind of like Peyton Thorne, who one of his teammates, I had Eugene Asante on, and he said they call Peyton Thorne the white Michael Vick or something like that. I forget exactly what is how he was something with Michael Vick, something Vick. But Peyton Thorne can run from Auburn, and his dad was a football coach. His grandfather played football, so he's kind of an interesting guy to me. I like Peyton Thorne as a day 3 flyer. I like El Gersma. I like Brady Cook. I like Riley Leonard, and I like Kyle McCord. Do you like any of those quarterbacks? And would you consider resetting with a non-first round quarterback, or does it have to be Shedeur?
Yeah, the thing too, when you draft a quarterback in the first round, you can exercise that 5th-year option. And so you get that extra year of team control on a cost-controlled contract. And just a couple more things.
Vanilla Vic is what they call
Vanilla Vic. I love that. I love that. Great to see some viewers of the 49ers Report in here, too. I see him in the comment section. Leon Sandcastle's one of them. Joji's another one. And some more people. But yeah, a couple more notes on Shedeur, right? Like, I hear you. The sacks are a problem. The lack of pocket presence is sometimes an issue. I do think that at times he does process well, and he throws with good touch and accuracy. I think the processing is why he's able to complete a high percentage of his throws. Couple of issues. The offensive line play with Colorado was a joke. And then Pat Shermer's been his offensive coordinator the last couple of years. And I know that he was a head coach and an OC and a quarterback's coach at the NFL level. But the offensive concepts that he was running and calling were archaic. I hated the routes. I don't think that it was quarterback friendly. There wasn't a lot of innovation. There wasn't a ton of pre-snap motion. A lot of times it was, let's rely on Travis Hunter to make a play and for Shedeur to get it to him. And that's just not a sustainable way to play football. So again, I wouldn't take Shedeur at number 11, but it is an interesting conversation to have. To your question about other quarterbacks in this class.
Yeah, do you like some of these other guys?
I do like some of these other guys. And if I was Kyle Shanahan, I think 2 players who fit what I look for in a quarterback, talking about the traits that I threw out there a little bit earlier that we've seen from Brock Purdy, that we've seen from Jimmy Garoppolo, that we've seen to a lesser degree, but in moments from a Nick Mullins and a CJ Beathard, players who can run the system, players who can process well, players who will get the ball out rhythmically, on time, accurately, and honestly have a lot of experience at the college level to the point where when they come in and have to learn a complex Kyle Shanahan offense, which is not easy, have a lot of experience at the college level. Those 2 quarterbacks are Will Howard of Ohio State, who transferred from Kansas State, and then Kyle McCord, who Will Howard replaced at Ohio State, who then transferred to Syracuse. Kyle McCord is a player who played in 37 games in his college career. Will Howard played for 5 years, and he played in 50 games. And I think one of the reasons why Brock Purdy was able to come in early, not be phased, and not be flustered is because of all of the big game and overall experience that he had at Iowa State. But players like Will Howard and Kyle McCord, they're not going to wow you with their arm strength, although it's strong enough to get the ball downfield. They're not going to wow you with their athleticism. Will Howard can make plays happen with his feet much more so than Kyle McCord. I think Kyle McCord has more of a gunslinger mentality. He'll stand taller in the pocket a little bit, but they will run the system. They are a good extension of the play caller, which is what Kyle Shanahan likes because he wants quarterbacks who will run his system. And I do think that they are smart. They are cerebral. They are good leaders. They're not phased. They're always cool, calm, and collected. And so, unfortunately, because it is such a thin quarterback class, I think that a team might take a chance on Will Howard in the second round. Way too early for the Niners to take a quarterback in the second round, in my opinion. Kyle McCord is a player, though, who could be available in the 3rd or 4th round, late on day 2, early day 3, that I would be willing to take a chance on. I know the Niners have a lot of needs, multiple along the offensive line, multiple along the defensive line, linebacker, corner, maybe another wide receiver, another running back, which I think is inevitable because of it being a deep running back class. But the quarterback position is always one that I'm an advocate for investing in and developing in. And we don't really know what Tanner Mordecai is, right? Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, that's a good starter and QB2, but I'd love to see the 49ers draft a Kyle McCord, have him on the team for 4 years, develop him, because I think that he can be a high-level backup or at some point a solid starter. And with McCord specifically, because I think it's more realistic that the Niners can get him, last year, he led the nation in completions, led the nation in attempts, led the nation in passing yards with nearly 4,800. 34 touchdowns. He did throw 12 picks. So the turnovers were a little bit of a problem, but the jump in confidence that I saw year over year from Ohio State, where it wasn't on the same page with Ryan Day, they basically push him out of that program, to what he did under Fran Brown at Syracuse was impressive. And he was a big reason why Syracuse was able to put together a really good season. And so McCord is probably the player that I like the most. I would take a flyer on Quinn Ewers depending on where he falls. He's just way too lazy with his mechanics, and I think that would drive Kyle Shanahan crazy as far as arm talent goes and big game experience. He put Texas football back on the map. Now, sometimes he can get lackadaisical with some of the mechanics, and sometimes he can have some shaky moments when the pressure cooker is on, but I'm not asking that quarterback to play right away. So those are a couple of the other quarterbacks who I like.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, quarterback is the most important position, and you got to have a guy. And not only that, you got to, you have to have sometimes more than a guy. You have to have more than one guy.
Yep.
Dallas just traded for Joe Milton, the third. I thought that was interesting. Let's role play, okay? I'll be John Lynch. You be, who could you be? You be Howie Roseman.
Okay.
How about that? Okay. Howie. Lynch over here. Just for shits and giggles, what do you want if we want Tanner McKee? What do you want in return?
Well, here's the thing, John. We traded away Kenny Pickett to the Cleveland Browns, brought in Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be our QB3, but we made that move because we know that Tanner McKee is better than Kenny Pickett, and we need him to be QB2. And look at our organization's history since the turn of the century. We've had to rely on a lot of backups to win big games, John. A.J. Feely, Coy Detmer, Jeff Garcia, Michael Vick. We won a Super Bowl with the backup in Nick Foles. This past year, Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee had to play. So given the importance of the quarterback position and how much we like the player, we're going to ask for a second or third round pick for Tanner McKee.
I think that's probably pretty fair, Howie. But come on, we know and that Jalen's your guy, and he's not going to miss any games. Does he? Jalen doesn't miss games, so
he's
you're
missed
talking
some
about
though, John. He's missed some.
He's missed some, but he's probably not going to miss too many. McKee makes a lot. To me, I think McKee is a guy that I think the Niners would love to have.
I agree.
That would be my guess. Just because, the Stanford connection, not only that, he's a big kid, good arm, very accurate, and he's 24. So to me, if I really didn't want to, if by chance I didn't believe in Mac Jones, didn't believe in Tanner Mordecai, and thought that I wanted another quarterback, I might trade that third round pick. I mean, would I rather take Kyle McCord in the third round? Or would I rather have Tanner McKee for a third round pick? Who would you rather have? If you could get Tanner McKee for your third, and let's just say you could trade back from 11 and get an extra third. So you trade back from 11 to 20, maybe you're taking a defensive lineman in the 20s, you get an extra third for moving back, you flip that to Philly for Tanner McKee. Would you rather flip that to Philly for Tanner McKee, or would you rather take a third round quarterback like a McCord?
Well, I think McKee is better than McCord. And I honestly think that McKee, if he's ever given an opportunity, I think that he can be a pretty solid starter in this league. I really do. He's really tall, 6'6". He sees the field really well. He throws with unbelievable anticipation to the sideline. Like the back shoulder balls that he's able to throw, it's really impressive. Good arm strength, good pocket mobility. He's not going to make plays out of structure. He's pretty tall and a little bit slow-footed, kind of like Nick Foles. Like he reminds me a lot of Nick Foles a little bit, who in 2013, Chip Kelly's first year, he threw 27 touchdowns and 2 picks. Like he set a record at that time, won a Super Bowl when he caught fire. He was inconsistent, certainly up and down, but I think McKee can be like that type of player, maybe even a little bit better. And he is going into year 3, so he has 2 more years left on his contract. McCord would have 2 more years on top of that left on his deal. But I think McKee is better. But I think the Eagles like him to a point where if Jalen Hurts were to ever get hurt, they have a lot of confidence that he can step in and play extremely well.
Yeah, no, I know there's no question. I mean, the Eagles are not looking to move Tanner McKee.
Yeah.
But
that was a good role play, though. I'll tell you, by me and you. That was good.
Yeah, and I will say this. I agree with you. I think Tanner McKee's an NFL starter. I really do. 6'6". I did the Stanford pregame. This guy's got a laser. I mean, this guy throws lasers. I mean, this guy can really zip it to the sideline and put a ton on the football. I'm not saying he's Flacco, but he's got more than a good arm. He's got a very good arm. Okay, if it wasn't Tanner McKee, is there another quarterback? Because, you look around the NFL, it seems like the rookie quarterbacks struggle, but then there's this, Baker Mayfield found himself, and Sam Darnold found himself, and Geno Smith found himself. And suddenly you've got this secondary crop of failed quarterbacks, and a lot of times they're viewed as failures so early. Like Will Levis is considered a bust. Is he a bust? I mean, we don't even know. I mean, Mac Jones is a bust. Zach Wilson is a bust. I mean, all these guys are busts until they're not, right? So what do you think of a guy like Davis Mills, another Stanford guy who's pretty accurate, pretty talented, pretty, good arm strength, good mobility. He's sitting in Houston behind Stroud. What you like Mills at all? I mean, I don't like him as much as McKee, but I like him.
Yeah, I think he's okay, and I think he showed some good things because he started a decent amount of games, but I think for the Niners, they have that guy in Mac Jones, and I firmly believe that after Mac Jones was in an awful offensive situation with the Patriots, where after he was a Pro Bowler as a rookie, he had Matt Patricia calling plays for him as the offensive coordinator. That's a joke. Matt Patricia is now the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. And he had he had no skill position talent around him with New England. And Bill Belichick, I think, ruined his confidence because he benched Mac Jones and he put in Bailey Zappi, and then Mac Jones got to play again. And I'm not sure if Mac Jones did himself any favors because sometimes he can be a dick and sometimes he can sulk and have bad body language. But I would be frustrated too if that was the situation. And then he goes to the Jags after he got traded there, and Doug Peterson was on his way out. Everybody knew that. And so Mac Jones is another one of those quarterbacks that I think Kyle Shanahan would really like, where he gets to rehabilitate his career. Sam Darnold spoke glowingly of Brock Purdy and what he was able to learn from Purdy, saying, I've never been around a quarterback who can process that quickly. I know that people love to rip Shanahan, but look, he had Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo playing at a really high level. Brock Purdy was a top 5 MVP. Imagine what Kyle Shanahan could do with a more elite quarterback. And so I think he's going to be able to develop Mac Jones, get his confidence back on track. He's the type of quarterback who Shanahan likes. Shanahan said it this past week at the owners' meetings. Stands tall in the pocket, delivers seeds, can get the ball out, run the system, and is a good processor. His college numbers at Alabama were unbelievable. He threw 41 touchdowns and 4 picks. Now, that team was loaded, but still, that's unbelievable production at the college level. And I think the reset for Mac Jones is going to help do him wonders. If Mac Jones were to ever get playing time, I think that Shanahan would be able to put him in a position to succeed. And that's kind of the quarterback that the Niners have brought in, along the likes of, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold type of plan, a Zach Wilson, one of these bust quarterbacks who a better situation with a better foundation can allow them to revive their careers a little bit.